parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio. My team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team, Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Me sing, every pressure, you illiterate and foolish.
Good evening, Jamaica. It is 4 minutes after the hour of 8 p.m. I just want to say welcome to the A-Team Radio Show. You're listening to the voice of Damon Scarlett sitting in, of course, for Dennis Brooks. And tonight we're going to be continuing where we left off last week. I trust that you had a wonderful day. And as we are kind of winding down now, sitting back and relaxing, peradventure you're already at home. Maybe you're driving home or you're just chilling somewhere, but you're listening to Nationwide 90 FM. This is the A-Team Radio Show. This is where we help our high schoolers, our students, with their academic studies. It's an on-air study program, and tonight we're continuing with English language part 2, as we say, English A. Last week we had a great conversation as we were looking at elements of the CXC syllabus, and we touched a little bit on where we focused on, was it summary writing?
Yes.
Right, summary writing. I have with me again this evening the wonderful educator of 20 years of service to this nation, Mrs. Lisa Samuels Thomas. And just if you're joining us just now and you missed last week, you can always go back and catch the replay of that episode. But Mrs. Samuels Thomas has been an educator for over 20 years, and of course she has an online tutoring platform called bulbsoup.com, and she's been doing this for quite a while, and I must say that she's an all-rounder. She's not only advanced in English language and but also literature, as well as that's right, and also holding certification in supervisory management, as well as data operation and other aspects of information technology. So we're continuing the focus on language and why we need our students to understand the principles and the discipline of English language, how they write. And one of the things that we said last week, Mrs. Summers Thomas, is that how we speak is totally different from how we write or how we ought to write, what is expected of us. And so learning the basics is important. So tonight we are going to be turning our focus to expository writing. And there are quite a few topics that comes under this in the syllabus. We will also just go through a little bit of the requirements for the school-based assessment, that's the SBA. And if time allows, we will also look a little bit about story writing.
Yes,
right.
That's one of my favorite topics.
Story time.
Story writing.
All right. So Mrs. Thomas, as we're getting into it, how are you? How was your week? Let's start there.
It was good. I'm alive, and I'm able to interact with my students. So it's good. It's a good week.
It's a good week. All right, love that. So expository writing. Why do we need this? In English. I know there are different writing styles, but as we look at expository writing, one of the things I remember before you go, is a type of writing that causes us to look at how we describe or give information.
Right.
And it includes looking at, evidence has to be there. Right. Details must be provided to support the topic in question. I know. So when you look at, for example, like the print media,
Yes.
you will see elements of
Expository
expository writing as they
Correct.
present the news stories. But anything else to add to that? Because you're the expert, So
All right. So for CSEC specifically looks at 4 or so the first one is letter writing.
yes,
So how the explorer look at how to write a letter. The student has to display knowledge of how to write a business letter. They have to look at email as well, how to write an email, the correct format, memorandum. So these are all things that we use in our daily lives.
right.
And the report, the simple report. So that's what they cover under expository writing.
Okay, and those elements, as you said, are very important, especially when you think about wanting to apply for a job.
Exactly.
Right, so those application letters, how you word those letters is also important,
Correct.
to win your spot in the interview room. Right, so you said there are 4 elements of the expository writing: the letter writing, learning how to write an email, a memorandum, we shorten it sometime and say a memo or a
Right.
memo, and then the report writing. So let's look at letter writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So CSEC, they're looking at how the student formats the letter. So you either apply, you have either you're doing the the left side, left hand, or you're doing the full body on the left hand,
Yes.
or you're going, I'm going in teacher mode,
Yes, that's fine.
It's like I'm literally thinking of a blackboard, but I don't have a blackboard. So let's reverse.
Okay.
Because letter writing is it's a very visual thing. So you have the full block where the child writes everything on the left. So everything goes down on the left. And then you have the semi-block where the headings start on the left, then they go on the right, then they end up over on the other side. So we start with the right, left, then the right again for the semi-block.
For the semi-block, okay.
Yeah, so that's what happens.
Trying to visualize
right,
that.
Right, so I'm trying to describe it so that it comes to life for the listeners. But the student has to master. They have to decide which one they're using. And I usually tell my students to just stick to the full block because you don't have to remember which side what goes.
Okay. So I know, for example, sometimes, like when you're writing a letter, some persons, they put a date on the right.
Right.
And then
that's the semi-block.
Semi-block. And then other times you just use the full block, which is
everything
on the left, right.
So there's nothing to remember. And then, I tell them, sometimes you're in the exam and you're so nervous, They're so nervous that they literally forget where goes what, and you do strange things under exam pressure when you're sitting in the exam. So I tell them, just use a full block. Just remember left and just use a full block.
So is the examiner looking for how you place
definitely
the letter?
Formatting. So they're
Formatting,
definitely looking at how you're formatting it because you're starting with the address.
Right, which is in the header.
Right. Then you have your date. Then you're going to have like the title. Who are you writing to? For example, the principal of where? You put the name of the place, of the school. Then you have the address of the school. And then, of course, you have to say what it's about. So you have that what is it about? Is it about a cafeteria issue?
Right.
What are you writing? And then you have your salutation there.
It's interesting because sometimes when we write letters, we don't put that kind of heading or subject line,
Sometimes,
yeah,
yes.
We just after the header, we just move into the body of it.
Right. That's because we have an email culture now, where you have a subject already, so
you don't need to put the
put that. And the kids say to me all the time as well, they say, "Miss, why are we learning to write a letter? Nobody writes letters anymore." But people
surprised.
do in the business. I have to tell them, in the business world, people write letters all the time, and you have to have the correct structure.
Right.
You have to send it out because it speaks of us under exam pressure. I tell them, make up a name, please.
Okay.
Under exam pressure, I tell them, make up a name, please.
Okay.
Because in the business world too, if you're doing a formal letter like that, you need to know who you're writing to, because the person, it's just what is the word? No, correct etiquette. Know who you're writing to, and address that person by name.
Yes, sir. All right, so we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to touch a little bit more on letter writing and understanding how we format our letters. And young people, you need to learn this, you need to get this, because sooner or later, if not already, you are writing letters for your job application.
Even summer jobs. Yeah.
Summer jobs, right, and loan application and all of that. So we need to know how to do that properly. So much more when we come back after this break. This is the A-Team Radio Show. Soon come.
Every pressure who no more. You illiterate and foolish, you might turn a cook. And you now go get no work, and your teeth like a puss. Send me granny with a...
Are you ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90 FM is searching for business development executives to build lasting client relationships. If you have experience across all stages of the sales cycle and possess strong communication, negotiation, and time management skills with a proven sales track record, this opportunity is perfect for you. Join our team and work with the top corporate brands, media agencies, and of course, our on-air personalities. Enjoy networking opportunities, professional growth, and competitive commissions. Ready to take the next step? Send your resume to hr@nationwidenewsnetwork.com today. Exciting news! The Design Studio on Nationwide 90 FM just got a whole lot bigger. Join us this and every Saturday now from 1 to 3 p.m. for an exclusive show that elevates your home, mind, and soul. Discover the latest interior design trends to create your dream sanctuary. Unlock your true potential with personal growth strategies. Nourish your body and spirit with expert wellness tips. Don't miss out on the inspiration you need to live your best life. Tune in to the Design Studio this and every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. and take the first step towards a more fulfilling you.
Make me sweat, make me harder.
Me sing, every pressure who no more. You illiterate and foolish, you might turn a cook. And you now go get no work, and your teeth like a puss. Send me granny with a purse, I eat you up a joke.
Welcome back to the A-Team Radio Show. Tonight we are looking at English language. We're zooming in the CXC syllabus, the English A syllabus. This is part 2 in our series, and tonight we are looking at expository writing. Now we are learning that there are 4 elements under this, and the first one is learning how to
Construct a letter.
Right. Followed by an email, then learning how to write a memo, and then report writing. So we're learning about the semi-block and the
Full block.
The full block. And so the full block is when you write your letter and everything starts on the left-hand side. Okay. And is that the norm or the custom for us here in Jamaica, or is that both styles are recommended or to be used interchangeably?
I think it's used interchangeably. It just depends on who and their preference. Although I must say that I've seen more full blocks than semi. Okay.
All right. And then you said that the letter must have, before you get to the salutation, there must be a subject line.
Right.
Okay. So in essence, that is what it's just really telling us what the letter is.
What it's addressing, what it's about.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what else do we need to pay close attention to? Students need to pay close attention to in the construction of the letter itself.
Like what the content, like what type of letter are you constructing? Is it a letter of apology? Is it a letter of complaint? Because they require different things. So like the complaint, you clearly have to state what is the issue that you're having, and what you would like the people to do about it.
Right, the response.
And you have to include details. Like, for example, if you bought a clothing item at a store and something is wrong with it, you have to outline what is wrong. Maybe there's a stain on the shirt. You have to put details like did you use a credit card to purchase it? What date?
Right.
So that they know. The attendant or the manager that you're addressing, what can they do? You need to give them information to help you, in essence.
One of the things that comes to mind, Mr. Samuel Thomas, is in writing the letter, it's not just how you expound or talk about what the issue is, But I know with English itself, for example, when we talk about like subject verb agreement, is that something that would need the students to really?
Definitely, because you get graded for grammar as well.
Oh, wow.
So that's always, grammar is always in there. And apologies, I should have mentioned that.
Yes.
Grammar is a consistent thing that is graded in every single topic.
Wow.
So your use of diction, what are your word choices? Are they appropriate? Subject verb agreement, is it correct? You know, and just generally your expression, you know. Is it high level? Is it mid
Right.
range?
Okay. And then with the agreement, if I remember clearly, so if the subject is singular,
Singular.
then the
The verb has to be
is singular,
singular.
and vice versa.
Right.
If it's for plural. Okay. So when I'm writing, I need to have that at the
Yes,
forefront
at the
of my
forefront.
mind.
So you
So what if I use spell check or the grammar?
spell check is not going to help you in CSEC, you know, because you're sitting
Yes.
with a paper.
Or paper,
Yes,
alright.
so you have to. And then, of course, I always tell when the parents come in for consultation
Yes.
or online when I'm consulting with my parents, I tell them that the only thing that helps subject verb agreement is literally to read. So if the child reads even one chapter of a book per day, it sinks in.
Okay.
Right, like how do you use one, and it improves their vocabulary as well. So my recommendation to any parent out there, if you want your child to do well at CSEC English A, they need to read. They don't. I mean, I guess some will argue that they don't read a lot and they passed, but it helps if even if you buy one book and you take the whole year to read it,
Yeah.
with your one little chapter that you're reading per day, it helps because you automatically, what is it now? It's muscle memory, like mental muscle memory.
Right.
If you're reading something and you're seeing how verbs interact with subject, and it's automatic to you when you're writing now to replicate what you've been reading. So I say that's the best
Okay.
tool
So
a parent can give a child. Have them
have them read
Read.
more.
Yes.
Read more. And also, not only reading books, but as you said, like for the print media,
Yes,
to read the newspaper, become familiar with the current affairs, know what's happening, and then even when you're in an exam and if they ask you a question, to relate to something that's happening currently, then you're able to write that
use,
and to write
right.
that effectively.
And that you said something very important. You said, all right, let me go back. The point I want to make is like current affairs. You spoke
Yes,
about current affairs. It helps in all of these things because you don't know what's gonna come. You don't know what they're gonna ask you about in a letter, and maybe you can use something that you have read or seen on the news or read in the newspaper, and especially that last topic on the paper too. Persuasive, argumentative.
Which we touched on
Yes,
last week.
which we touched on last week. It's very good to at least have a working knowledge. In fact, one of the things I used to do when I was in the formal classroom
Right.
was have the kids. We had a session where they would watch the news, and they would have to come back and I'd start the class with the news, and I would literally have the kids. I would at random from the register. I'd just close my eyes, run my hand across the register. They were very scared.
Wow.
I would just wherever I landed.
I would be.
Yes, and I would say, "What did you watch on the news last night?" And they would talk about it. What do you feel about it? Are they upset about what they saw? So because all of that, they express themselves and then they become aware, and they're arguing without even realizing that they're
Right.
arguing, which helps with the topic as
Good
well.
topic as well, yes. Wow. And so there's a lot that we can glean in terms of English and communication, even just by watching the news.
Yes,
And paying
I would-
close attention
I would
to
tell
current
parents,
affairs.
you know, especially parents that watch the news, you know. My husband watches the news religiously. I would encourage people to sit with your kids, call them, even for 5 minutes, let them watch something with you, even if it's 5 minutes of it.
Right. Good family tips there,
Yes.
and good life tips in terms of helping with their academic development. So we see that in the context of letter writing, that yes, ensure that there is a subject verb agreement. Also paying close attention to the details. Having your subject lines is important. Also, well, you can't end the letter without
The
without
end salutation.
the end salutation.
Right.
But before that, you must have like a final paragraph that, well, does it sum up what you would have been addressing within the body of the letter, or just something that speaks to just a closure of
Just
it?
a closure.
Okay.
I would tell my students, be polite, Tell them thank you for your time and I look forward to your favorable response. Just have a tagline that,
Yes.
that you're ending on, that you're polite. Maybe you want to inject an email, a fake email address or something there.
Thanks in advance.
Yeah, and,
Right.
saying that you can reach me here, or, but you end on a note where you are polite and you're giving them information to reach you.
Okay. Sometimes we can write letters, Mrs. Samuels Thomas, where the closure seem very, like we're demanding that we want a response.
Yeah, the
as
thanks
to
in
that.
advance. I tell them don't use thanks in advance,
Yeah.
because when you say thanks in advance, you're implying like you're demanding
Okay.
that they, fix the issue.
On your terms.
On your thanks in advance. It's kind of abrupt.
All right. So what
So
can
let's try
what
for
what can we
something.
use instead of thanks in advance?
Well,
I look forward
I
to-
look forward to your favorable response, or something like that. That doesn't
Okay.
it doesn't come across as so harsh.
Or super assertive.
Yes.
in a sense, but make it very simple, plain, and understandable. So we need to have that, and of course, you can't end the letter without your signature.
You're correct.
Right, because they won't know who it's coming from.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you put your name and then the signature below. So that's a
Name.
part of the formatting that they get graded on.
All right. So just a quick recap there. So we need to plan the message, ensure that we have it in a proper format, have a clear opening in the letter, and developing that, and of course closing off the letter and signing it.
Signing it, yes.
Signing it. And the date is also necessary.
There,
At the
that's
top,
at the top.
At the top,
yes.
the date is also necessary. All right, so that takes care of the letter writing. Any other techniques that students need to be mindful of as they write? For the exam itself, did they have to write a letter piece?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
So, but the tip I would give is make sure that you read the thing carefully and you're answering what they're asking you to answer, not what you think. You understand? So read it. Read that. Read it carefully, in a sense. Even if you have to jot it down on the side what they're asking you, and make sure you replicate.
Okay.
Yeah, and they give you information too, because it's set up like the question is set up like a scenario. So you get details like. Sometimes you get date and time of things.
Right.
Sometimes you get a name, or reuse the information that you get in the question.
Okay, one of the things I wanted to also to talk about, even though I know that we are writing in the context of the exam, they're writing on the paper,
Yeah.
right? But I know if you're typing on the computer, it's a different thing. But the matter of proofreading, because that came to mind just now. On the computer, you have a more flexible way and option to do the proofreading. But in constructing the letter, in the examination when writing, do they still apply that element of proofreading?
It's rough.
Right.
It is
Given the time.
given the time, because they only have, I think it's 2.5 hours to complete so many things.
Right.
They pray. I know it sounds odd, but they're gonna practice. You have to use the grade 10 and 11 years to practice writing, and there are only so many things you'll get a letter on,
Okay.
and it's usually a letter of complaint. So if your formatting is good, and you're calm and you're able to just present the information that they want, and as I said before, they give you information in the question. So if you reuse your information, you'll be fine. So even if you don't have the chance to proofread, and if you're doing any proofreading, I would say it's just to ensure that the grammar is good,
Okay.
that your grammar is
Right.
on par.
On par, so you don't want to give the examiner something that doesn't really make much
Yeah,
sense.
Because you
Right.
get graded down for it, so.
So paying close attention to the grammar is a key so that you can gain your maximum marks.
Yeah. And I wanted to just insert that when I say read what the child likes. So I like books, so I'll read a book. But maybe a child likes comics. Even a comic is reading, you know. Although some of them are the grammar is not so great. But read. And try and speak English. That's why in my English class I couldn't speak Creole or Patois. They had to speak English. It's like in Spanish class, when you only speak Spanish, you only speak English.
All right, I want to touch on that point when we come back in terms of using the language that we speak. We're gonna take a break just now. This is the A-Team Radio Show. We'll be right back after this.
Foolish, you might on a cook, and you not go get no work, and your teeth like a puss. Send me granny with a purse, I eat you off the joke. Guilty, outperform, outlast. Guilty, with top performance. Guilty, Chakama, reliable, full stop, not comma. We have the expertise for drilling and demolition. We have the power tools for plumbers and electrician. Fan select tools, 3 parts and 3 repairs. 3 parts, 3 repairs. 2 to 3 years. Hilton, available at Delta Supply, 106 Hagley Park Road. Call us at 876-302-6111-4. Delta Supply, we service what we sell.
Are you ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90 FM is searching for business development executives to build lasting client relationships. If you have experience across all stages of the sales cycle and possess strong communication, negotiation, and time management skills with a proven sales track record, this opportunity is perfect for you. Join our team and work with the top corporate brands, media agencies, and of course, our on-air personalities. Enjoy networking opportunities, professional growth, and competitive commissions. Ready to take the next step? Send your resume to hr@nationwidenewsnetwork.com today.
Me sing, boop, boop, boop. If you pressure who no more, you illiterate and foolish, you might on a cook, and you not go get no work, and your teeth like a puss. Send me granny with a purse.
Welcome back to the A-Team Radio Show. You're listening to the voice of Damon Scarlett. My guest this evening is Mrs. Samuels Thomas, and tonight we are focusing on English language. This is part 2 in our series. Tonight we're looking at expository writing. Just before the break, we were looking at the whole element of the letter and how we write that, and then we touch on the point of using the language. And I wanted to bring this point in here, or perhaps a question. How do you encourage students or motivate students then to stick to writing in the English, speaking in English, and not using the Creole? Now, I know for us, Creole is a part of us.
Yeah, it's
and
our
it's a part,
heritage,
right?
language.
So how do you get them then now to stick to the English, even though they tend to speak the Creole a lot?
Oh well, in my classroom, if they want an answer from me, they have to be speaking to me in English. I'm not hearing you. If you're speaking in Creole, and please note that Patois Creole, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't have an issue with it.
Right, and we're
Grew
not
up
saying that.
speaking it, nothing is wrong with it. It's just that in my capacity as a teacher, helping them to, translate and do this thing well, this language that is second to some, English, I have to force them to speak it and then to write it.
There's a lot of conversation, I'd say currently, but it is not just a current conversation. This has been an ongoing conversation in terms of adding the Creole aspect of it to
the English exam.
And just the curriculum overall. What I find sometimes, what I've seen is that if somebody speaks standard English and they speak it very fluently, sometimes people look at that in person and say, well, something wrong with you. You're a little bit different. How do you deal with that kind of a differentiation in a situation like that?
Or in the classroom?
In the classroom specifically, yes.
Well, we just have to. It's a teaching moment. People are different. You speak Creole, that's fine. She or he speaks standard English, that is fine too. So you have to tell her, you have to encourage them, or I encourage my students to understand that difference, nothing is wrong with difference. Just
Right.
because you speak Creole or Patois does not mean that this person beside you has to speak it. So it's just a matter of making them aware of that, making them see the value, because there's value in each.
There is, and I think to helping students to understand that the English that they're being taught now is also what's going to carry them throughout
Right.
life. So nothing is wrong with the Creole and speaking the patois and all of that, but in the context
to
of your
advance.
holistic development and to
Right.
advance and to understand that globally
Yes.
as well.
That's what's spoken.
That's right.
If you carry Creole in certain settings, patois, they're not gonna understand what you're saying, and you need to be understood to communicate.
And that's I think that is the essential point.
Yes.
Right. On realizing that this at this level, what you are being exposed to right now, it's something that is going to carry you further, carry you through life. You leave high school, you go to university, you further develop your writing
Correct.
skills. So you get exposed to research papers and all of that, and you have to
Yes, how do
submit
you
them.
manipulate that?
Right.
If you weren't practicing using the English language in both the written and the oral format, because I've come across people who they speak Creole and they write beautiful English, and I've had the reverse. People
Wow.
speak so beautifully, and then when they write, it does not translate. That boggled me for a little bit. How do you speak standard English, yet when you're writing, it is not fluent and standard? But it happens. So, but the major point we need to just hit upon is that both languages are good. Both have advantages in different contexts.
Right, and
Right.
it speaks to who we are as a
Right.
people.
So there's nothing at all wrong with Creole. Speaking patois, nothing wrong with it. It's just what context are you using it in?
Right. So what we now need to do, and for teachers within the classroom, would have to find the creative ways of making the language understandable and how they can apply to it. Because I know that for students, sometimes young people, they can put up that resistance to the
Against it.
So they need to see the need for it, and then having that creative element of embracing it so that they can apply it in all areas of their lives.
Yeah, and there's also the very real fact that in some situations, the children, English is not their first language. Creole or Patois is. So it's you as the English teacher now. You have to translate and then get them into the mindset of speaking how they don't normally speak, and it can be difficult. So I need to acknowledge that English teachers have a serious task, but it can be done, and it's something that we have to do in order to prepare them for the exam.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's what we're doing, preparing them to do well in the exam.
Preparation is key. So students and parents, if you're listening to us now, take the time to read more, because you mentioned that earlier on, reading more books, reading the print media, what has been put out there. Also, listening, I think, helps very greatly, and that helps us to better be able to communicate well, and also to write what we hear and also what we speak. So English language have its own tenets that we have to abide by. So that is in the context of letter writing. I know also, let's take reporting. I was going to say email and memo, but I think the reporting aspect is something that we really should highlight.
Okay.
So let's talk about that.
All right, so the report for CXC looks specifically at what someone saw. It's eyewitness normally. That it's what I've seen over the years that they've done, the eyewitness report. And the format is usually a simple report. And the report, I like to see when the report comes, because they literally give you all the information that you need,
Yes.
Like literally, they outline it, and it's just for you to literally write it back in your own words, add a few details. But a report is a lovely thing to see on an exam. When I see a report, I
Yeah.
smile because the kids it gives them a lot of the content. So if they
Okay.
use the content that they're given in the question, they're good to go.
So how would they break that down now?
They would, firstly, as I said, format is very important because they do get graded for it. So they would need to ensure that they have I'm going to use the simple report format where the sender's name and address, that's the witness, and they have the date of the report.
Okay.
That's the first thing that happens. Then you have the recipient's name, position in whatever company, address of company. So it looks like a letter, but it's not. It's not at all because the differences are clear. And then in the body now, you have the date and time because that's important in a incident report.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Date and time, you have to put where the incident occurred, whatever incident they give you, the cause of the incident, and the persons involved. So you're literally an eyewitness reporting on what you saw.
Okay.
So you can embellish, add details to what they give you, but you need to have the core of what they give you in the question because they give you a scenario.
And I think also what is helpful is that for those students who are interested in media and journalism, I think this
Yes,
aspect
this
is also
topic is
critical for them to grasp because as they go to present and there are persons who want to do newscasting and writing, becoming a journalist, they need to understand these simple steps and how to conduct a research and investigation and then to put that into proper report
Yes.
format. I guess that's what we do here.
Yes. So it seems like it's actually very good, in terms of what they've laid out.
Yes.
I think they've done a fantastic job of how they lay out the topics because it really prepares the children, the students.
Yes, it does, certainly. And, one of the things what we have been saying, even since last week, is also the need to practice,
Yes.
right? Spending time writing is what's going to help us in our overall development. So outside of an exam and outside of a regular homework or so, we, based on what we see, if we're even watching the news, as you said, for example, parents should bring the children into the entertainment room to watch news, or anything program that they're watching on the television, and to kind of bring now a summary or write a report on what they
They saw.
they have seen. That is a good practice for them. So
Definitely.
So yeah.
And it helps with analysis skills too, and problem solving.
Yeah.
Because if you sit with your child and there's a piece of news that you're watching with them, just the discussion alone activates their brain.
The brain, yeah.
And they become
stimulate the mind.
Yes, they become articulate, and you encourage them to, so why? Why do you believe that? Just that why, and you keep doing those whys, like layers of onions peeling away. So I think that's very important.
All right. So, we're talking about expository writing. We're learning about how we construct our letters. We need to have excellent letters out there, and we need to know how to write a proper report.
Yes.
Well, unlike the letter, where you end with a signature, you don't need to put your signature on the report.
You just end. The
You just
report is
end.
abrupt.
Okay.
You just literally end.
Remind us again, for the report now, for the examiners, what are they looking for?
They're looking for the details like date and time, where the incident occurred, the cause of the accident, if it was an accident, and as I said, for the people involved. And they're also looking for the format. Have you use that simple report format?
Okay. So, learning to write it, thinking critically, learning to assess the environment situations will help in writing an effective report. We're just about upon the break. When we come back, I want for us to talk a little bit about the school-based assessment.
Okay.
What is that like? What it entails? What's the marking scheme? Because we know that contributes a great portion to the overall grade. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the English language school-based assessment. Much more right after this break.
And you not gonna get no work, and your teeth like a puss. Send me granny with a purse. I eat you off a joke. If I see them, I hold your red and big tonight. You puke, me look and say, book, book, book. If you pressure, you book. If you not no education, people treat you like a book.
Come into the parlor, there's a welcome there for you.
Welcome to the Mayor's Parlor with Desmond McKenzie.
From 1 to 6 p.m. every Sunday, you'll now get more of your favorite vintage music.
Put your head on my shoulder.
Nationwide 90 FM will transform your Sunday into a musical time machine that will take you way back.
Come in, let's go back in time.
This magic moment.
Journey into yesteryear with Desmond McKenzie in the Mayor's Parlor.
I've got the music to jog your memory and make you smile.
Put your sweet lips a little closer to the phone.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the best in vintage music.
Come into the Mayor's Parlor every Sunday between 1 and 6 p.m. here on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Those oldies but goodies reminds me of you.
Due to the live broadcast of the East and West Portland Joint Constituency Conference at Port Antonio High School on Sunday, November 17 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., the Mayor's Parlor will be aired from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Nationwide 90 FM apologizes for any inconvenience caused.
It's the weekend and the youth are taking over the airwaves. Yes, we are the new voices and faces of the Talk Up You radio show. The voice of the Jamaican youth right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
After a busy week of work and school, come and wine with Jamaica's #1 youth radio show.
We're bringing you entertainment, fun facts, and staying true to youth development and advocacy.
Catch the action each and every Saturday as we roll out buzzy segments. What say you?
Youth for chat,
life skills,
global connect,
and
Bust the Youth.
That's the Talk Up Youth radio show, Saturdays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM. Talk Up Youth, Miss Effie.
Talk Up Youth, don't miss it.
Me sing, book, book, book. If you pressure, no book. You illiterate and foolish, you might on a cook. And you not gonna get no work, and your teeth like a pussy.
Welcome back to the A-Team Radio Show. You are listening to the voice of Damon Scarlett. My guest tonight is Mrs. Lisa Samos Thomas. And as I have been saying from evening, an educator for over 20 years. And tonight we're looking at English language. This is part 2 in our series. We're going to switch our focus now in this final segment to talk a little bit about the school-based assessment. Now, it seems like every course has an SBA.
Yes, every single
these days.
course.
So, maths has an SBA, English has an SBA.
But it's very good that the SBAs exist because it gives the students a chance to go in with, scores, already. And if they really pay attention, it makes it's a serious advantage going in with, top scores on your SBA.
Which is good. And, in comparison to like university, they don't give us SBAs in university, but then, your mid-semesters and all those little work that adds up to your grade before you go into the examination room.
Can you imagine if you had to depend on just that exam grade?
Wow. Yeah, man. So I see where even at the high school level, that kind of curriculum also prepares us for what is to come, and sometimes students don't take the SBA very seriously.
They should though.
They need to. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So the English SBA, what is the component of this? What is required of the students?
Well, it looks at the topics now, so they're literally exploring topics that they would have looked at in paper too.
Okay.
So the SBA starts with the students going in groups. So the teacher can put them in groups, or they put themselves in groups, and they have an overall theme that they're doing. So their theme could be violence, for example, and then each person in the group creates like a question for themselves or a statement of issue for themselves.
Is that almost like a problem statement?
Right, like a problem statement that they are exploring, and they use secondary sources to explore that. So there's no first.
Right, no primary.
No primary.
Right.
Right, and it has different components. So it starts with the, which is essentially the introduction, the plan of investigation. So the plan of investigation is where they outline, what they're going to do, the reason for choosing their topic.
Right.
The expected benefits to them as a student of English, how they propose to collect.
And that point about the expected benefit as a student of English.
That is a key point,
right, and the key mark that you don't want to lose.
Exactly. So it can be, what I tell my kids is that it must go back to it must help them with something. Maybe you make it as specific as it will help you improve your summary writing, which it will do. It will help you to use the language better. So it has to be related to English language. How will it help you as a student of English language?
Yes. And those benefits must be clearly expressed and outlined.
Right.
Okay.
So maybe you develop or enhance the ability to use standard English. That's a very general one. Develop the ability to edit and self-assess yourself, which does happen in the written report. To enhance writing skills, and then you can maybe name a particular topic that is helping you to write. Maybe it's helping you in expository writing, which it does as well. So those are some examples of the answers that you could have for that.
For the benefits, yes.
Right. And then, of course, how you propose to collect and use the material. So you have to collect 3 sources. One has to be media. So you can have 2 print, and one has to be audio or visual.
Okay.
I thought that was very interesting. I thought that was great on CSEC's part.
To include that last aspect.
Right, that last aspect. So you can't have all 3 articles. You have to have either some audio or visual in there.
Yeah, and we do learn effectively that way too.
Yes.
And having that kind of balance, it's also good.
Yeah.
So your sources is not just limited to one form.
Exactly. Right. So I thought that was great. And in the same way, you can't have all audio. You need to have at least one visual. One article or something like that.
I agreed. And I think also when you zone in on the particular problem, you find that you also having that diversity helps and strengthens the problem that so you mentioned, for example, violence. You not only want to have articles that speak about that, but then in your referencing you also want to have, as you said, audio, especially visual. So I think the kind of problem that you're zoning in onto will give you that kind of diversity and to strengthen what you're about to write.
Exactly.
All right, so we get that. That's the plan of investigation.
And then you have the 3 reflections coming up. So
one is individual, I remember that.
Yeah, that's the written report. So all of this is individual, The only group one is the written report. So even though it's a group SBA, the only point at which you're working as a group is to come up with the topic. Not the topic, the theme, the overall theme. Then you select your own topics, and the only point at which you're working as a group is with the written report. The rest of it you're doing by yourself. All right. So the 3. So the next step after you have we have the reflections coming up. So the first reflection is basically, I like to think of it as the introduction to the reflection.
Yes.
Because it basically asks how each artifact helps you to shape your thinking around the issue. So you have to explore yes, I chose these three artifacts, these three pieces of artifacts.
Yes.
How have they, what thoughts did I have before on violence? How have they changed my mind? And it has to change your mind in some way, because you can't, you would have come to the topic with some preconceived not emotions, some preconceived ideas.
Right.
So the three artifacts that you selected, if not a little bit, it must have changed your mind, if not a little bit. Because I've had kids try to tell me it has not changed their mind. I said, no,
What?
sir, no, ma'am. We're gonna have to find a way. Think hard. How has it changed your mind, even a little bit? If maybe you thought violence, that a particular area was violent, but you didn't realize the extent to which it was so very violent. Even that,
having done the research,
having read
Mm-hmm.
and been exposed to these articles and this YouTube video, how has it changed me? So it had to have impacted in some way. And then the second one,
is that deliberate though? Removing themselves from.
I think so, and I think it's excellent because it allows them to really think.
Yes.
And I think it's great. So I'm all for this SB, as you can see.
Yes, and you're the one in the classroom with them, so
Yes.
you understand the intricacies of it. Right, so that one is necessary, and which other one?
The language. So you have the language. That one is, the kids find this a little bit difficult sometimes because you really have to look at how the language is used. And this is where changing of artifacts starts happening, because maybe you had a YouTube video and it did not have a lot of words, and you have to maybe go back and change it, get something with a little bit more dialogue that you can say, how did this language, work? Is it formal or informal? Why? Who is the audience? Is it working for the audience?
Looking at the setting, perhaps.
Isn't it great?
Yeah. It is, when you sit down and think about it step by step.
Yeah, isn't it? One of my favorite parts of it is the language. It's the language part, that second reflection, because they really have to think, and they have to be able to identify the different forms of writing. The piece that you have selected, the artifact, is it a persuasive piece? Is it expository? Is it descriptive? Is it a narrative piece? So it really stretches the child in terms of his or her knowledge of types of writing, and so I think.
One of the things too, when you talk about narrative writing, in English, because sometimes when you look at a text or a book or whether it's the Bible or so on, you are given that kind of a narrative, because I know earlier on you wanted to talk about story writing.
Right.
So in the context of even telling the story, I think you're exposed to narrative writing, from what I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct.
Right. So narrative writing in the context of the exam, what else would they need to grasp for that?
Oh, for narrative writing, they would have to know the elements of dare I say literature? No, it's story writing. The elements of a story.
Okay.
Plot, character, conflict, setting, point of view, and they would have to ensure that all of those things are in the story.
And happening in like a chronological order?
I usually tell my students to stick to one day. You know how students like to write stories and they say 20 years later.
Yes.
Or no, one day. Let's talk about one day.
Today, for sure.
Today, one day. The best story I forgot, I wish I remembered my student's name. It was in a mock exam where she literally wrote about not knowing what to write in the mock exam.
What?
She just wrote like, I'm sitting in this mock exam, and she's describing how she's sweating and she don't know what to write.
Oh, that's a story.
And trust me, it was so good. That was one of the best stories that I got, and it was on the extreme setting, the exam setting.
Pressure.
Yeah, so she wrote about her pressure.
Yes.
Sitting in that exam trying to write a story. And
brilliant. I love that.
Trust me, it was so good.
Wow. So understanding the elements of a story is very, very important. The plot, the character. We talk about the setting, the conflict, the theme, the tone. That you're also writing the styling choice there. But there's a lot when you think about language itself, and there's much more that we could unpack. But I'm out of time just upon the 9 o'clock. But I just want to say thank you so much, Mrs. Samuels Thomas. It's been so fun over the last 2 weeks.
It's been fun.
Right, and we appreciate the work that you do for our nation students, and just taking the time out to come this evening to speak with us and to help to build their whole academic development. I think that is remarkable, and all the best to you and your students as they seek to do their external exams come 2025. Well, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, viewers, we've come to the end of the show. I want to say thank you so much to our guest, Mrs. Lisa Samuels Thomas, or technical operator Andrew Anderson. I want to leave you with this quote: "The decisions you make today will determine the stories you tell tomorrow." I'm Damien Scarlett. Have a wonderful evening and a great weekend.
Man, dog, food you have the cook. Them no want no candy man, no Barbican, no brook. So big up all the youths of KC, Wolmers and Meadowbrook.
Are you ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90 FM is searching for business development executives to help us grow our business and build lasting client relationships. If you have